Welcome to a Better Place Australia podcast. There have been amendments to the Family Law Act, which has an impact on separated parents. Better Place Australia Family Dispute Resolution Team Leader Eliza is going to unpack the changes and what it means moving forward for separated parents with children.
So the key changes, Chris, are going to be around simplifying what the court considers when they're looking at care arrangements and what is in the children's best interest. So that list of factors will be condensed from 15 down to 6. The other significant change is going to be the removal of the presumption that parents have equal shared parental responsibility. And parental responsibility is in relation to decision making, not actual physical time. The other change that is probably going to have an impact in the FDR space is around final parenting orders only being able to be changed if there is a significant change in circumstances. So I think what's being considered there is making sure that people aren't stuck in court proceedings long term and aren't going back and forth trying to change final orders all the time.
Right.
Finally, the last two are going to be what kinds of communication are allowed during family law proceedings and also the role of the independent children's lawyers in those proceedings.
So you touched on equal shared parental responsibility. Do you think that is a major or even the most important change for family dispute resolution?
Yeah, I think what's happened with that terminology is a lot of the time people think that equal shared parental responsibility means equal shared time. So parents will often come into a mediation with that position that they're entitled to a 50-50 shared care arrangement. But that's never really been the case in that what that phrase refers to is decision-making responsibility. Removing that gives parents a more level playing field in terms of deciding how they make decisions for their children and what decisions are going to require the input of both parents.
So in the court space, how does that work?
So, because historically the burden of proof was around, disproving the other parent's capacity to have that shared decision-making responsibility. So it was very much about undermining, the other parent rather than the burden of proof being on showing why you should have equal shared parental responsibility. So essentially, I think it turns a bit of a negative into a positive in that it gives parents the opportunity to show their parenting skills and their parenting capacity. I mean, it hasn't actually come into effect yet, so it's hard to say what that is actually going to look like in the court space.
You mentioned something important, though, about how mediation through family dispute resolution is a lot more collaborative as opposed to going to court.
Yeah, so I think with mediation, it's really around the fact that it's not an evidence-based process the way that court is, and it's about the parents working together and having that facilitated discussion around what they think is in their children's best interest, what kinds of decision-making they feel requires the input of both parents. So even if we're mediating separately between the parents, we still maintain that child focus and also that future focus. And the emphasis isn't around what the parents are entitled to. It's really around the entitlements of the child and their right to have a relationship with both parents if it's safe to do so, which has also been, the thinking behind the legislation and the court as well. But I think there has been scope for misinterpretation.
I guess that pretty much sums up then what parents would be reminded to remember when they're coming for mediation, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the really important thing, if your matter is assessed as appropriate for the mediation space, and Not all matters are appropriate for this space, but I think it's really important to come in with an open mind and be really thinking about what is going to be best for your children, and how can you promote their best interests and, give them a more positive experience of separation going forward.
Yeah, good one. That's Eliza, Team Leader for Family Dispute Resolution at Better Place Australia. If you're experiencing issues as a separating parent, then contact Eliza and the team for assistance through mediation. Go to betterplaceaustralia.com.au.